Buenas tardes, good evening. Thank you so much, all of you, your ambassadors, colleagues, all our Hispanic and teachers, Spanish speakers, and all those friends who are here tonight with us. Thank you all for coming, and thank you to the International Center and the Instituto Cervantes for organizing this, I think, beautiful evening. So my name is Elena Perez Villanueva. I am today the chargé d'affaires of the Spanish Embassy in Delhi, and I am most happy to welcome you and welcome our wonderful speaker tonight, not only because we're going to speak of one of my predecessors, because as you will see, Guillermo Nadal was also chargé d'affaires and deputy head of mission in India, but also because I am a friend of the family, because Gonçal, who is going to speak tonight, has two brothers, and one of them was my first ambassador in my diplomatic career. I was posted in Thailand in 2008, and his brother, Juan Manuel, was my first boss. So I remember talking about the uncle who was living in India. At the time I thought India was a wonderful country where I will go someday. But for holidays, I didn't know I would be posted here. So I am really delighted to be able to listen tonight to the stories that Gonçal is going to tell us, and to see, you will see these beautiful films that are witness of what Delhi and other parts of India were like in the 60s and 70s. Just very briefly to introduce you to what the relationship between Spain and India was like. The diplomatic relations between Spain and India started in 1956, and so Guillermo Nadal was one of the first diplomats to be posted here. He was posted in the 60s as the chargé d'affaires, and he had a very extraordinary career because after that an ambassador was sent to India, but he remained here as the deputy. And later, when this ambassador left, he was so in love with India that he was also lucky enough to be posted here as ambassador. So he did like all the position, and that's quite extraordinary to be posted as the number 2 and then to be upgraded to number 1. But that was his luck, and also probably that he was so interested in staying in India because he was so in love with this country. We normally do not stay that long in countries because I think there might be a fear that we might be so in love with the country that you will end up not being objective and working for your own country. In this case, I think it's beautiful that you will see some beautiful images of the time, and you will hear some beautiful stories of someone. I think from my point of view as a diplomat, I think it's wonderful also because we have an image that is not always so good. People sometimes do not really know what we do. Also, there is a tendency to think that we live in very big mansions and don't do other than to go from one reception to the other. We sometimes do that, and we are very lucky to live in very wonderful countries. I think all the countries are interesting. Not all are as interesting as India, and not all the postings are as interesting as Delhi. We have here other diplomats. Some of them have been here twice or have been here for a long time. They will agree, I think, with me. But it's beautiful to see an homage of Guillermo Nadal to this country that he loves so much, with all these beautiful images and with the stories that Gonçal will tell us, and what he could tell his nephews about his experience and all the things that they learned. They also learned to love this country, Juan Manuel, his brother, who was my boss, was also posted in India, and Gonçal has been coming here for more than 50 years regularly. He has so many friends among you, so it's a lot thanks to the ambassador Nadal. I forgot to mention that, well, he was so well connected, he knew everybody. The first ambassador of India to Spain in the 60s was the Maharaja of Jaipur, and the residence that we have now here and where the embassy is located was his residence, and the Maharani. So he was so, so lucky to have, and well, as such, I think such a good diplomat that he had the best connection in India. So without further ado, I leave the floor to another lover of India, which is Oscar Pujol, the director of the Instituto Cervantes, who has been organizing this wonderful conference. So thank you all for coming, and leave you with the conference.
Well, buenas tardes. It's such a pleasure for me to be here today, introducing Gonçal López Nadal and the ambassador Guillermo Nadal, because what you are going to see today, I think it's a unique program. Thanks to the ambassadors here, the ambassador of Chile, the ambassador of Peru, ambassador of Guatemala, and the diplomats from the embassy of the Dominican Republic, from Mexico too, and maybe I'm leaving out somebody, I don't know. And thanks also to Elena Perez for being here with us, also helping us to host this event from the Spanish embassy. The ambassador himself was very eager to come, but he's outside there and he couldn't make it. And I also would like to salute Tara Singh. He's a very special person here, because he was the companion of Embajador Guillermo Nadal a long time ago when I think he was shooting all these movies, no? But Guillermo Nadal was a very special ambassador. I didn't have the pleasure to meet your uncle, actually, but I heard so much about him. He learned Hindi, he used to speak Hindi, and he was so much in love with India that, and you correct me if I am saying something wrong, but I am told that when he left India, and he was posted, I think, in Turkey, in Ankara, I think, as ambassador, he only lived 3 months after his departure from India. He was missing so much this country. He was so much embedded with the culture and with the life of this country that leaving India for him was a really painful experience. No? But anyway, I don't want to speak now about Guillermo Nadal, because that his nephew, Gonçalo Nadal, is going to do that. But I want to say also a few words about Gonçal López Nadal himself, because it's not only the uncle, which was an extraordinary person and with a long-term relationship, but both his nephews, Gonçal López Nadal and Joan Manuel López Nadal, who was also here at the embassy, as Elena said, they have a long, long relation with India. And I think they are those families and those persons who were really instrumental in fostering the relations between India and Spain. They've been doing their job, sometimes in a very silent way, but with a lot of determination, with a lot of vision. And I think that if we today are where we are, this family has a lot to do about this. No? Gonçal López Nadal himself, he came first to India when he was 15 years old, and in 68. And he used to come to India to learn English during summer vacations with his uncle at the embassy. But he had the chances to do, he was the Spaniard also who went to Auroville when Auroville was inaugurated at that time, and he was a representative from Spain. And he also was a person, I would like to mention here, a very special person too, which was very important in guiding the perception of India for Gonçal. I want to say one thing also, and this is very clear. Both Guillermo López Nadal and Gonçal López Nadal, they come from one of the most beautiful corners of Spain, the island of Mallorca. Mallorca is in the Mediterranean, it's a very beautiful island. And this island somehow has had a very special relationship with India, because the first Spanish professor who came here, and we have many of his disciples sitting here in that, was also a person from Mallorca, Antonio Pinimelis, which is much celebrated even today. Genio has a special award for him. And Gonçal was very much influenced by Antonio Pinimelis, another Spaniard who was in love with India. In fact, he passed his whole life here, and he died in India. He was the one who put the founding stone for Spanish and Hispanism. And both Antonio Pinimelis and Gonçal López Nadal, really, they traveled through India. They really meet the people. They went to the villages. They really knew that India of the 60s and 70s, which was so different from the India today. And just to close these remarks, Professor Gonçal, he's he's a historian in economy by a Spanish university. And I think one of the most extraordinary things that you're going to see today is the movies that the ambassador, I think with the help of Tara Singh, was shooting at that time. And I think this is a unique document. You will see several things. And I think, and that's why we wanted to share this with you people, that we can get a glimpse of that India that is no longer there, but that somehow brings us, very, very special memories. And with this, I give the floor to Gonçal López Nadal. Thank you very much.
How can I start after these words? Thanks, Elena, thanks, Oscar. And also, of course, let me start giving thanks very honestly to the Indian International Center, especially Madame Teti, for accept the proposal of our dear friend Oscar Pujol from Cervantes, and give the opportunity to the Indian International Center to be the first place where we are going to see the films made personally by my uncle, by Guillermo Nadal. It's an image that was India between 1964 and 1975. How happy would be him if he would know that here in Indian International Center we are going to see films. I cannot imagine which would be his reaction. It's not possible. Of course, the films were made by that Super 8 format, but now we have given all the films to the archives of Image and Son, and they have done the possibility to have them digitalized. So it's really a pleasure to be here. I am really very satisfied and to be here to show for the first time these films. But before to start, let me say something about Guillermo Nadal. Guillermo Nadal was born in Mallorca. What a lucky place, no? In 1911. Studied in Barcelona University. He studied law and humanities. And when he was 22 years, after the two careers, he went the most to Madrid to study to be a member of the Foreign Affairs Service. And at 23 years, he was success in his petition. And in 1933, he was part of the first batch group of diplomats who were created during the Spanish Republic. It was the only one and the first. Yeah? So they had the opportunity in 1933 to do a very interesting, as a practicals, they were invited to make a journey of 2 months journey for Europe, Germany, Poland, Switzerland, Hungary. Could you imagine that? Recently, my brother has edited the book of this report in order to make a pay homage to my uncle. So with this book, and my personal homage, thanks for Instituto Cervantes to accept it, we are going to make a deserved homage that we have to do here. His diplomatic career started in 1939. 1939 till 1945, he was in Switzerland, a neutral country during the Second World War. After this, 1945, he was sent to London, where he had the influence of British. It would be very enormous. After that, he went to Madrid. He was working in cultural affairs. In culturals, he really was very close, and he worked a lot. And in Switzerland, he had learned Russian, and in Madrid, he started to work in Russian translations. After that, he was sent to Bonn, at that moment, the capital of German, Republic of Germany. And then he continued his cultural work, translating Rilke, Gottlieb Benn, and Thomas Mann. And then at the end of the 50s, he went to Madrid. He works also in the cultural direction, general direction of Foreign Affairs Ministry. In 1961, he was sent as General Consul in San Juan de Puerto Rico. And after that, 64, at that moment, his mother died, my grandmother died, and then he had the opportunity to come to India. It's very strange that the person who arrives to be in charge of affairs, because at that moment they were presented and Spain had sent two ambassadors, and then during this time he came here. But when it was nominated another ambassador, Mr. Teus, he said, no, I want to stay here. I know that I won't be the first, but I prefer to stay in India. And just at that moment, he had to move from Brisbane Road to Bhagwandash Road, near Barakamba Road. It was the moment that I came here. I am the only one of my two brothers who had not lived in the lovely embassy, residence of Brisbane. Anyway, then, but the most interesting point is that at 69, when Mr. Steus left the ambassador, he asked to be the ambassador, and he got it. Then he started in 1965, and during 11 years, he stayed in India. In fact, I can say that his departure from India, it was very sad, and it was, he went to Turkey. He went to Turkey by a jeep with Tarashin and two dogs, and 1 year later, in summertime of 76, he died. Coming back from Mallorca, he had a very cancer, tumor cancer. He died in the flight. Let me start to see a piece of film. Then, as he became the Spanish ambassador, then we have, I don't know who did it, probably in official services of Rashtrapati Bhava, they made a record of his credentials. For these credentials, I must tell you that, of course, for him, he had been living for 4 years in advance, and then he learned Sanskrit. He learned Hindi, it's not the same. But he decided to present the credentials in Hindi. Of course, we have the film has not, it's not spoken, so we are not going to hear the words that he said to the president, Mr. Hussain. But we can see the image. We have 5 minutes. Yeah? They're coming from the residence in Privilege Road. Yeah? The other person is Mr. Sagrera, who was the Mr. Consul. At that moment, Spain had only 2 persons in the Spanish, in the diplomat delegation. Stop! You know, this good friend of my uncle. They were born in Mallorca. But during the 11 years, the trait of one or the other was very differential, very, very Bosch. In Bosch is much than you. It's very, very official. And Benny Mellis, of course, was the person who takes some pictures of that. You can continue sharing. Someone said that the people who were there were astonished because they could understand, because he did it in Hindi. And so not many of the guards could believe that they could understand the words that he presented. Anyway, now, sorry, but I'm going to read some things that I have written about his stay in India. No? Guillermo Nadal Indian epoch was extraordinarily intense, and not only in what affected the forging of a relationship that was not especially easy, given the general context of this decade and the particular circumstances of both countries, but also perhaps due to his profound dedication to the various facets of India, so its story, politics and culture. His passionate dedication, his progressive devotion, made India, according to what he wrote to Joan Mascaró, another Mallorcan person who translated into English the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads, that India becoming his spiritual homeland. His departure, as I have said before, provoked with him a deep regret, from which he would not be able to recover. A year later, in August 1976, while serving as ambassador in Ankara, suffering from a brain tumor, he would die in Zurich on his last trip back to took him to his native Iceland. When he died, after his death, of course, we received a lot of letters, most from India, of many people, very good friends and consuls. But at the same time, we wrote in a newspaper, I don't remember which one, I have the copy of the text, but not the newspaper, a wonderful text from one of the best historical journalists in our history, is Manuel Leguineche. Manuel Leguineche had two very good books about India during the 60s, and he mentioned Guillermo Nadal. Let me introduce some words of this Mr. Leguineche. My job as a war correspondent in 1965 in the Pakistan conflict was made easier by Nadal. His point of view were accurate, and his knowledge of the subject was inexhaustible. When I returned from the front, he subjected me to an intense interrogation. He would do the same during the Bangladesh war. He managed to get me to attend the debates in the lower house. Nothing that happened in India was foreign to him. On all fronts, in politics, in culture, in social relations, he was passionate about the protagonist of the Indian political world. I remember one night, in the middle of the war, in 1965, with the city totally dark in blackout to avoid the Pakistani Air Force, when I had a long interview with Nehru's former minister, the fearsome Krishna Menon. Political sunk after the Chinese invasion of 1962. Nadal waited for the result of the interview until the early hours of the morning. What did you think? What do you think? How did you find him? What did he say to you about this point, and what about the other? Guillermo Nadal was a machine gun asking questions. He was passionate about the subject, and far from the coldness or distance that some diplomats assume in their human relationship, Nadal did not hide his passion for the political scene in Delhi. He had met Menon on a delicate mission in London after the Spanish Civil War. Nadal was an invaluable guide through the political labyrinth of the Indian capital. Go see this man in such a place. Nadal wrote down his name on a piece of paper. The clue was always good. His farewell to Delhi last year was a sad day for those who knew him. Guillermo Nadal, despite his age and the obvious difficulties of the trip, went to his new destination, Ankara, by car, crossing Central Asia. His curiosity and enthusiasm for getting to the bottom of countries and their circumstances pushed him to do so. Let's see two other pieces. One is for the live industry. In the street, I could see in the front or in the box where was the film, the name Bundi, I think Ducena in Bundi, 1966. Can we put the film, please? the same time, for social reasons, he had a very good relation with some Maharajas. One of them was the Maharaja Bundi. I remember him in 1968 when he used to come to Delhi, and he spent night in our house. So we were invited, and I had really the privilege and the luck to spend some weekends in. Especially I remember when we went to the first Holi that I have had in my life. Well, I'm not going to put, it's very personal, but in Bharatpur. And of course he was a very good friend of Maharaja and Maharani of Jaipur. And of course he was incredible ceremony of the wedding of Bubbles, the son of Maharaja. We have also a piece of film about Jaipur during the wedding of the son of Maharaja. We can see. seeing the, probably you have observed more or less the same, but seeing the cinema, the films, you can see how was the end of a period, how was the time of the era of past India, that now is very difficult to explain, no? And there's sense to see, and the contrast between these kind of private kingdoms and the contrast with the population. Then, but it's really quite good to have this material in order to explain many things. Let's wait a minute, before to show the last piece of document. Just only to express how friends of my uncle from many different states, Indian, they wrote in this when he died. They wrote some words, very nice words about my uncle. Dear Mrs. Nadal, write, it was great shock and extreme sorrow that I learned through Begum Salemanidu about the demise of your illustrious brother, His Excellency Ambassador Nadal. Late Nadal was a very dear friend. Whenever I had the opportunity to meet him, I always found its company exhilarating and enjoyable. He was not only a man of many accomplishments and pleasing manners, but also with vivacity. We greatly miss him. In case I kept our heartfelt condolence of his parent by the departments should rest in eternal peace. Yours sincerely, Sheikh Abdullah, Chief Minister, Jammu and Kashmir. And there are many letters. I have synthesized by two other letters. One was from a very good friend who was the Maharani of Kapurthala. It was a profound grief and shock that I received the news of our dear friend Guillermo, whom I shall always consider amongst my closest friends in India. And the person who I never heard about her, a person who was neighbor, he was living in Prithviraj, probably it's Rajpat's Prithviraj, he wrote, we had many mutual friends, my cousins the Jaipurs amongst them. We were then posted, she said, he was so naturally, easily and happily a part of our culture and our lives. A deeply spiritual question, seeking a scholar, it was said that Guillermo, a few of us were privileged to glimpse amongst them. It was through your brother, with his quiet wisdom and discerning eyes, that I first met Dr. Raimo Panika. I shall always be grateful to Guillermo for that. This woman is your ever Manakshi Devi Albijarpur. And finally, I want to read a part of the obituary written in the Statesman Daily, 30 August 76. This I can read. He loved the country and the people so much that he had repeatedly expressed this desire to come back to India to complete his outstanding diplomatic career. He traveled extensively and had friends in every strata of Indian society. He was perhaps the first ambassador who speaks Hindi at the time of presenting his credentials. Let's pass to see the final document. It's about a mela in Odisha, and it is complemented by a trip that I had the opportunity to go with him in Connaught Park to a very nice place. I remember all my life. His name is Garja Devi. It's like a very nice rock. On the top there is places where sadhus went to pray. Please. Well, I must express my gratitude to my Indian friend, Indian who's living in Spain, who's doing the teacher of English in Santander, Mr. Artur, because he has helped me in order to select the films and put music in the films. And of course I cannot finish this homage to Ambassador Nadal, my uncle, without mentioning other names of the persons who had the luck to work with him, who has given too much for the relation between Spain and India. Unfortunately, three of them are passed away. Other is here. Is Isabel Alvarez. Isabel was working in the embassy since beginning the 60s until practically her death. She was living, well, his death was 4 or 5 years ago in San Sebastian. She was a very beautiful person. He was my mother in India. And he was all the time, remember my uncle. He was a devote of my uncle. Antonio Vinimelis, of course. Antonio, my uncle gave me the opportunity to know India. He opened the door to India to me, that it belongs 56 years after. But I must recognize that Antonio Vinimelis gave me the real India. It is not the same that the India of my uncle was absolutely wonderful, but Vinimelis showed me how to live in the streets. After 68, I came back in 75. My uncle was not here, was in Turkey. Then I passed to live in nice house in Bangladesh Road, to live in Southern Junk Enclave without the commodities that I had. And then I have repeated and repeated, living in many places, but my Guruji, Antonio Vinimelis, deserves the best. That one was a person who did a lot for the Spanish cultural relation in Spain, India, was Susmita Day. Professor Day was my first teacher in English, of course. And you can see, it's my fault, not his fault. I will say a little anecdote. At that moment, the Spanish was only given in Delhi University, and I went to his apartment in Queer Harrods, Willie Hall in Delhi University, and when I was taking breakfast, some things, of course, immediately came the monkeys, and they avoided me to have this memory. And when Mr. Day was nominated rector of GNU, then restarted the relation between the academic life in India, and we are very proud, and I can say that thanks to Dr. Day, we signed the first academic agreement between an Indian university, was GNU, and the Spanish University, the Balearic Island University. It's the best legacy of Mr. Vinimelis. And the fourth person, fortunately in life, is my friend Tarasin. My friend Tarasin, I met in 68, I was 15, I don't remember how was your age, but we were, I don't know how it's in English, how is cómplices. How is cómplices? We became friends immediately in order to, because we were very afraid what my uncle said to him, and then we became a kind of brothers, different brothers. And probably Mr. Tarasin made a lot of films that my uncle could say. And finally, thanks to gave the opportunity to Delhi be the first place where these films, after 55 or 60 years, as you can see, we have been able to see. Thank you very much. I am really very satisfied, very emotive for this session. And I think that once I have done the catalogue and the films, it will be a pleasure for me to give the Cervantes Institute and also to Indian International Center this material, because